At this time, we're back. Eric just here, joined by Brandon. Brandon is hosting a lot of dinners across the country right now. Brandon, give folks a scoop on what's happening at these dinners and why you started doing this last year.
Yeah, so the dinners range from anywhere between 12 to 20 attendees, typically, you know, chief people officer, head of talent acquisition, VP of recruiting, director of people operations at everything from, your Series A business all the way up to the Fortune 500. And we've done about 50 of them in the past 9 months throughout the country. And we've accelerated our efforts pretty significantly. We're actually doing a dinner every night of the week for the rest of the year throughout the US. And the reason why we started it to begin with is because, for one, a lot of teams are in a remote work environment now, and they're not getting that like social interaction and sort of the mind share that they used to get historically when they were in office. And so it's been really cool to see people who might have even lived like a block away from each other but had no idea, who are both heads of talent at a similar company, get to
Yeah.
come together at those dinners. And we've even had people get hired from the dinners where they got laid off a few
Oh,
days
really?
before, but then somebody was looking for a recruiter. And so then they got started a few weeks after they met at that dinner. So it's been really cool to see the connections there. For me personally, as a business owner, coming into the space, sort of an outsider coming in, I needed a way to be able to break in and start to build some of these relationships and
Hmm.
learn as much as humanly possible. And so the information and insights that I've been able to glean just from the conversations that are had around the table have been really impactful for us as a business. So
Yeah.
that's really the reason.
Yeah. And so I work in schools and have been in town a long time, but recruiting everything from principals to chiefs of talent to PE teachers and things like that. In trying to sort of understand your business world, how would you explain it to somebody who's not necessarily in a corporate space?
Yeah. So in terms of our business, we provide an end-to-end recruitment platform for organizations to do everything from sourcing candidates all the way to offer letter signed under one system. And the whole reason I started is because I used to use LinkedIn and a legacy applicant tracking system to hire and recruit for my previous company. Sold that in 2022, and when I was thinking about what to do next, my younger brother was actually on the job seeker side of the market, and he brought to me the horrific recommendations that he was receiving from the legacy job boards. And they ranged from he should go be a CTO at a Fortune 500 company to a part-time women's shoes associate at a Macy's in New Jersey. Really just crazy off the wall stuff. But when we looked at my experience, which was just getting thousands of candidates and maybe 5% of them were actually qualified for the role, we decided to go after the root of the problem, which is the actual recommendations themselves. And the reason why they're so bad is because the sourcing platforms and the job boards don't have access to any of the applicant tracking system data. So if I'm sourcing from LinkedIn into an applicant tracking system, as soon as that candidate leaves LinkedIn, they have no idea if they even submitted their application, let alone if they were even a real applicant or not, which is a huge problem now. Which round of the interview process did they make it to? What are we ranking them internally on our scorecards? What is the AI interview note taker picking up during the call? What are they scoring on their skills assessment tests? If we do reject them, why did we reject them? There's just a tremendous amount of data that until Scaleless was trapped downstream. And with no feedback loop into the sourcing tool, there's no reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning is how machine learning algorithms improve and optimize over time. So we collapsed that entire 8-step process from sourcing to offer letter signed in one end-to-end system, not only serving as a consolidation function for organizations that are using a bunch of disconnected tools right now to do that, but most importantly, we're harnessing all of that data and automatically training the recommendations engine, as well as our agentic co-pilot Bella, who helps teams with recruiting, with sourcing, with inbound prioritization, with interview intelligence, etc. So, yeah.
Interesting. So if I'm hearing this right, so to improve what the recommendations are, you're getting access to what happens after something is pulled into the applicant tracking system. Am I saying that right?
Correct, but we are the applicant tracking system. So we are
Yeah.
both, we are the sourcing, we are the applicant tracking system. So we're not trying to work with these other disconnected tools and be an intermediary between them. We're replacing them altogether.
So then, as you're pitching and talking to folks who might be on a Lever or a Salesforce or Greenhouse or something like that, what kind of questions have they asked you? What kind of things have you heard from them that is kind of the most appealing selling point for them to switch? What kind of things have you had in terms of those
Yeah.
conversations?
There's four top of mind pain points, depending on which system they're on, size of org, etc. Number one is sourcing. Second is inbound prioritization. Third would be interview scheduling and intelligence. And then fourth is going to be reporting and analytics. So usually they all have some sort of combination of them. And we address those in various ways. Sourcing, the biggest thing for us is that we are enabling the agent to source on autopilot in the background for recruiters based on the ideal candidate profile that's required for that position. So we've taken what historically would have taken a ton of time and collapsed that into an agent, and all the recruiter has to do is review and approve the candidates that are being surfaced to them by the agent. Or they can even choose to not review and approve and let Bella do her thing and do the outreach and get them to come in and apply. For inbound prioritization, we've done away with the static legacy resumes that exist in these historical ATS systems. What Scaleless does is we take the resume from the candidate and parse it into a standardized structured data profile for each applicant. So it
Mhm.
gives employers over 50 different data points they can use to segment and filter their inbound applicants. So if you received 1,000 candidates for a role, you can come into the system and say, I only want to look at people who have these 3 skill sets, who have worked at a Series B company in the fintech industry, who have spent a year and a half or longer in their past 3 roles, who are within a 25-mile radius of Miami. That would
Mhm.
take you from 1,000 applicants to like 40 in the span of 30 seconds versus you having to sit there and go one by one through each resume and try and extract out some of that data and information yourself manually. And then, automated interview scheduling. Bella joins the calls automatically, fills out the scorecards for the hiring managers, provides reasoning and evidence throughout that entire process. And then reporting analytics, because we built from the ground up, knowing we were going to be end to end and in the sort of post AI era, there aren't the same issues that some of the legacy platforms run into in terms of data integrity and cleanliness, in terms of whether the reporting is actually correct. And with
Mhm.
conversational analytics, just being able to talk with Bella and have her run reports and dashboards for you, that'll come live in about 2 months for us. And super excited about that because that takes the work and effort away from the recruiter entirely.
So I'm glad you're doing these dinners. I think you're right that especially as people gone more remote, it's nicer to be able to connect with people and find out who is in a talent space as well. Are people, would you say, optimistic or pessimistic about how AI is changing the way that they do work? What you're talking about here sounds very exciting, but there's some darker
Yeah.
sides too. What kind of things are you hearing in these conversations?
I think in its current application with like the point solutions that either support employers or job seekers, it's doing more harm than good. And if you
Hmm.
look at the data pre versus post chat GPT, there's a roughly a 2 week increase in average time to hire and about a $1,500 increase in cost per hire.
Hmm.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have legacy solutions on both sides that have bolted on AI and now they're trying to compete with one another. And so
Arms race. Yeah.
I like to use the AI mass supply tools that job seekers now have at their disposal. If I'm a job seeker, I can go submit 5,000 applications in the span of like a minute into these legacy ATS systems that are not equipped to handle that type of volume. Then they're trying to do keyword scraping, which is then triggering false positives because you can stuff keywords into resumes and even put them in like white letters so a human couldn't see it, but
Right.
the keyword scraper is going to pick it up. And then recruiting teams aren't able to get back to the job seekers because they're just drowning in candidates, which then makes them even more disillusioned with the process, which forces them to use even more AI. And so it's this vicious cycle that has really brought the industry backwards, not forwards. And if you look at any other business function, sales, development, finance, has experienced massive increases in efficiency from AI. And we're using these tools ourselves internally at Scaleless, but it has not been the case for recruiting and hiring. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact it is a two-sided problem. And it is not like a standard two-sided marketplace where if you're buying a car, the car is what the car is. It doesn't have a choice whether or not you buy it. Whereas within this two-sided marketplace, it's two human beings on both ends of the equation. And so that's why Scaleless is a dual-sided system, as we aim to be that single source of truth and data for both employers and job seekers.
It's interesting to hear you talk about like a high volume of apps because my world tends to be the opposite. Not many people are clamoring to be a seventh grade math teacher in Watts of the Compton area or be a principal somewhere, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel like your company is supporting people in my position where it's more a challenge to surface apps at all as opposed to kind of drowning in the mass of 5,000 apps that came in the last
Yeah.
24 hours?
So the sourcing agent is the biggest help there.
Hmm.
We have 3 different talent pools that you're able to tap into through that sourcing agent. We work with a handful of third-party data providers like People Data Labs, Crust Data, and Crunchbase to provide us with over 1 billion profiles that the sourcing agent is able to go through and recommend to you, and then also provide a verified email address to be able to handle that outreach to the passive candidate. The second is all of your historical applicants. A lot of companies are sitting on a couple thousand, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of previous applicants, that they don't have a great way of re-engaging and bringing them back into the fold, even if they might be a great fit for whatever role they're trying to fill. And then the third is our own scaleless job seekers. So we are dual sided. We have our own job board. We have our own job seekers, and that continues to grow on a daily basis and is around just under about 500,000 job seekers right now. But we only launched 6 months ago. And so it's just really growing very quickly. And that's going to be a much bigger selling point for us moving forward.
Nice. Well, last thing, we were talking before we hopped on the recording, your LA dinner next week is almost way past capacity, so we can't quite plug that. But if people want to hop in on these dinners,
the more the merrier. But
okay, yeah, nice, yeah. So if people want to hop in on these dinners, either in LA or other parts of the country, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so if you go on my LinkedIn, all over the place, there are the whole list. We're booked out through April 7th right now, so we'll be in Seattle, Portland, Oklahoma City, Omaha, Nebraska, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Detroit, New York, San Francisco, Miami, like all over the place. And we're adding more cities as we go. And so if there's a city that you don't see on there that you're in that you'd like to have a dinner in, let me know, because I will go anywhere, assuming it's, not Antarctica. So
yeah, nice. We'll do. We'll put all the info in the episode description. Brandon, look forward to seeing you and your team next week at the dinner. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Catch all past episodes, all the Spot Future podcasts. And until next time.